When John and Bethany started short-term rentals, they wanted to retire Bethany within 12 months. Well, they did that in less than 12 weeks of putting their nose down and working hard. Plus, they did it in a really small market. We're going to talk about that right now with John and Bethany Davis here on the Fearless Investor Podcast. Welcome into the Fearless Investor Podcast. You are listening to me, Kyle Stanley. We are talking all things short-term rentals all the time. And I know a lot of you have asked, I want to own more properties. I want to take this thing to the next level. And I love arbitrage. I love coasting because I don't need any money. But now I've started to build up some income, or maybe I've got a lot of money saved in the bank and I want to go own more properties. And it's really tough right now with interest rates, but we are going to continue to pump out more and more information about owning properties, especially through creative financing. That's a sneak peek into what we've got coming up in 2024. There's going to be a lot of content about that. We're going to be bringing in some strategic partners for that to talk about how to be able to take over either existing loans that are in the 3% or even get owners to, or even getting homeowners to sell or finance to you and to reduce those rates to into the 4s, the 5s, maybe even less. We're going to be giving out so much content about that, and I really hope that you'll continue to tune in. But today we have John and Bethany Davis talking to us about their story through short-term rentals. I really got to know both of these two. They've done some major things within their family, within their business in just 9 short months. They came to me in February. They said, we need to make this business work. They said, we want to retire Bethany within the first 12 months. I said, here's how you do it. And they did it in under 12 weeks, which was just amazing to me. In fact, you'll hear how they made that decision, and it's just really a very cool story. But they haven't had to do it with a lot of properties. They have 8 properties today. So if you think about that, that's 1 new property per month. And that's not through ownership. That's through arbitrage and through co-hosting. And they've done it with little to none of their own money. And now John is kind of seeing in the future, he might be able to retire as well. But there's a lot of things that we go into, a lot of gold nuggets through this conversation that go beyond just their story. And I hope that you'll be ready to take some notes, because this is going to be super helpful if you're serious about not only starting this business, but continuing to build it and even building it through other strategies like creative financing, like midterm rentals. So without further ado, let's get to it right now with John and Bethany Davis here on the Fearless Investor Podcast. Fearless, I just want to take a quick break from this podcast to talk about funding your furnishings. If you're listening to the Fearless Investor Podcast, then you probably want to do the Airbnb arbitrage model. Reason being, it's a low barrier of entry, right? $10,000, $15,000, $20,000 to buy furniture with someone else's property. And sure, you can use your own bank account, or you can raise the money at a low interest rate from a friend or family member. But wouldn't you rather get that money at 0% interest, aka free money? That's what my friends at Pathway Financial can do for you. Pathway Financial helps people like you get 0% interest credit cards, so you don't have to have the financial stress of putting down a ton of money up front for your deals. Think about that for a second. How many arbitrage deals could you do if money was not a concern? Well, that could be the exact possibility with Pathway Financial's help. Get a free quote from them today. Go to fearlesskyle.com/pathway financial to find out how much you can get pre-approved for right now. And don't worry, it won't have any impact on your credit score because it's a soft inquiry. So go once again to fearlesskyle.com/pathway financial and get that free. Welcome into the Fearless Investor Podcast. You've got me, Kyle Stanley, and John and Bethany Davis, who are actually just a couple hours north of me in Lodi, California. Really great story to share with the audience today. I'll give you a little bit of background about this relationship. But before we do, John, Bethany, thanks for being here. And what is the crazy short-term rental story you've got for our audience today?
Yeah, thanks for having us. So we fortunately have had very good guests. We've had a couple that were like, man, we don't really like that. So our guests have been great. But however, we have this property where the neighbors have just been the worst. We arbitrage it. They've lied to the homeowner. They've yelled at our guests. They've complained to city council. They messaged the mayor. We reached out to them. Fortunately, the mayor messaged me and he's like, hey, this guy's, anyway. So message the mayor. Yeah. But I think the craziest thing that they ever did was while guests were there, one of them went and wrote in chalk on the street, huge letters, illegal Airbnb, and then asked the guest to leave a negative review. So anyway.
What did that guest do?
They called us. They're like, hey, did you see this? And we're like, oh man, they hate us. we do everything right, and they still just keep, complaining. And the city of Lodi's approved it. The city of Lodi is great with us, and they love it. They get their tax. They have our business license. So yeah, we told the guests and they were fine with it. But yeah, chalk illegal Airbnb in the street. So
Well, that goes to show you too, as long as you're doing things kosher, as long as you're set up with the city the right way. Sorry,
yep,
neighbors.
yep,
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
can say what you want, but we're doing everything kosher.
Well, and
yep.
we really tried to bend over backwards for those neighbors too. We didn't want to be jerk. Well, I should say John didn't want to be a jerk back. I did, but we went with John's route, and we stayed very professional and kind to them.
All right. Well, you guys have a lot of really good nuggets that you're going to share today, just based on the experience that you've already had in 8 short months since you got your first one. I think you got your first one inked in March. You said yes to this business in February. And just a background for everyone else, you guys reached out to me, and I was kind of telling the 6FF group here before we went live on the podcast, there's certain people that reach out to me that are like, yeah, I think I want this business, or I think I want to do this. And there's other people who are like, hey, we got to make this work. This is the road to either retiring myself, retiring my wife, retiring my spouse, whoever it is. And I felt that need from you guys. So there was no reason why you weren't going to be successful. And here we are 9 months later. And catch us up. Where are you at in your business today? Let's talk about how many properties. What does the income look like? What are you putting in your pocket? Just give us a little bit of a breakdown.
Yeah, we have 8 properties now. We have 4 of them are arbitrage, 3 of them are co-hosted, and one of them is like a quasi partnership with the homeowner where it's not strictly a co-host. We're actually splitting the profit after we pay her mortgage and I pay utilities. So 8 properties operated that way. Our first property is still by far our best. That property alone, I don't think has made less than $4,500 net in 8 months.
Net, that's after all expenses.
Yeah, like I'm pretty sure, gross, the cheapest month we've had, or the lowest month we've had there, was like 7,600 or 7,700. Other than that, it's been almost virtually over $8,000 every month. One month was 11 grand gross on that one house. Yeah. So so we have 8 properties. Now we put in a decent amount of cash after, but we also did interest-free credit cards. So we have debt that we have to pay off with that. All the money we're making is not profit. And I'm sure we'll get into this, but Bethany had to quit her job for our personal life. We have 5 kids. So we're pulling out like $6,000 a month right now, basically to offset the job that she used to work. And so that money's coming into our pocket basically for kids' school and groceries and whatever other stuff we have going on.
Sports.
Yeah. And the business is still growing an account where every other month we're basically dumping another 5 to 10 grand from the business back into the business. So
Bethany, what were you doing before?
I was a marketing manager for a construction company. And I was doing that for really only about a year. So I had been a stay-at-home mom for years while running an online fitness business. This opportunity was brought to me, and we just kind of felt like I needed to take it. It was something I wanted to do. And in January, the job description kind of started changing, and I was no longer as happy as I was there. And bottom line, I just missed my kids. I missed being on every field trip and being so involved in their lives that I kind of started to tell him, like, this isn't something I want to do anymore. So we need to figure something out. And then shortly after that is when we reached out to you. And we had very specific steps on what needed to be done for me to be able to quit my job. And I might have done it a little premature, but it was because our first property was, performing so well that I just came home one day and I was like, I gave them my 3 months notice. I'm done. And he was just kind of like, what?
And that was after you got your first property and started seeing some income coming in?
It was like 3 weeks after we started.
Yeah.
Wow.
It was well, it might have been another month or 2 after that, but it was basically right away. As soon as she saw the first house and we saw the numbers, she's like, I quit.
Yeah. I gave them 3 months though. So I finished 3 months.
Okay. So I want to come back to that, but back up. You said something, John, you said Bethany needed to quit because of life going on inside the house. Bethany, did you see it as a need, or was it just like, hey, I'm just because you used a little bit of different wording. You said you were just no longer happy in your current position. So what was it in your eyes? Was it about the happiness, or was it about the need to be at home and cater to the kids?
I mean, I think it was both. I think because I was unhappy at my job, then John and the kids then suffer too. I mean, it
Mm.
was fine. The kids went to after school daycare a couple days a week for a couple hours, and they actually loved it. But it was just what we were doing was not sustainable for the happiness of our entire family. So it definitely was a need. But there are people that do that all the time. There are two parents that have a lot of kids that both of them work full-time jobs. But it's not something that our family was used to. So it was a new thing for them that was not
Yeah.
Okay. So 3 weeks in, right? I kind of pictured it going down with like, okay, the kids are in bed and now, hey, this first Airbnb is making us money. Maybe we start talking about retiring me because I can see that you're going to move forward. But you just went into work and you were like, guys, 3-month notice. You got home and you said, John, we got to get to work.
Yeah. I
How
mean,
did that go
I
down?
think I might have told you the morning that I was going to do it. I
Okay.
knew I had a meeting with my boss, and I told him, I said, today is going to be the day. So I went to a work conference in February, and my boss asked me to give him a year notice, or what did
6
he ask?
months or something.
6 months notice. He's like, hey, look, I know you're not going to be here forever, because when they asked me to take on this position, I said, look, I will give it a try, but it's not something I want to do forever. They knew that, me coming into the job. So it wasn't like I just, screwed them over. And so he said, will you give me 6 months notice? I was like, 6 months? So I gave 3 months.
Yeah.
But yeah, there was a conversation. I think John was still in bed, and I was like, hey, I'm leaving for work. Oh, by the way, I'm quitting today.
Yeah.
This sounds very familiar to the going and getting a dog thing. This
Yeah. I know. I should
texted
learn
me
by
about.
now.
I've
Yeah.
seen a pattern here.
Came home with a puppy out of nowhere a couple days ago. Granted, our 10-year-old puppy dog had died, so
Yeah.
she replaced him. So hopefully, if I go 2 days later, I don't know, she can how replaceable I am. We'll see.
You're irreplaceable, babe.
Oh gosh. All right, guys. Well, one other thing that you mentioned as you were getting into this business is that you decided to take on 0% interest credit cards. Talk to me a little bit more about that. Why and how did that work?
Yeah. So I've always had a little side hustle. I think this gets into it, right? I've always had a side hustle. So I originally started out pre Gary V. We would flip garage sale stuff. We would go get furniture and sell it. And I remember doing like a restaurant fryer, and buying those and flipping them. And like we did that for a while. Then me and my brother did tickets for the Oakland A's, just buy them and resell them. We did that for a year. And then me and her dad got into cars. So we flipped probably 65 or 70 cars over the matter of like 4 years.
Wow.
We did that. And then after all that, I got into mortgages. And so I'm a licensed mortgage loan originator. And I did that great for that during the time of when rates were really low. And during that time, I started to understand debt and leveraging debt and these people getting cash out refis, and using it for investments. And I helped a guy pull out a ton of cash out of his house, and then he bought a fourplex, and just learning about leveraging debt. So then when we started this, I go, you know what? I don't have a ton of money. I have a little bit of cash, but if I can get free debt and use it to basically fund this, like it's a no brainer. And so we got our LLC. We just followed the steps actually that you checked out for us. And so people are starting, like, we didn't reinvent anything, right? We followed your steps. We got an LLC. We built our website, got our pamphlet, took that LLC down to Chase, put $5,000 into that account. And that day applied for a credit card and got like a $30,000 limit, interest free, for 12 months.
Nice.
5 days later, applied for another one, I think American Express, and got another 15,000. And then a week later, applied for one more. Anyway, ended up with basically like 65,000 interest free.
All for 12 months.
Yeah.
Okay. So how have you used that in the business? What does that look like? And how much does that eat into your cash flow currently? When, just kind of give me the breakdown of that so I can put my hands and feel on that and feel it.
Yeah. So if we take just the first property, for example, the rent was $3,200. So we paid first month and deposit. We paid $6,400 for that, right? $3,200 deposit, $3,200 cash. And we negotiated the first 3 weeks were free.
Okay.
So that was our setup time, and we were brand new, so it took us a while to set up. So
really quickly, how did you negotiate that? A lot of people probably want me to ask that question right now. Tell me what you said.
I just asked. I said, "Hey, look, it's a business. We're going to be a great renter for you. Everything's going to get paid on time, auto pay. We're going to take better care of your house than anyone, but it's going to take me a few weeks to set up the house. And is it of just developing this partnership and relationship? Can you give me a couple weeks free to set everything up? Because I'm not going to be able to live there. I mean, I'm not going to be able to have people in there until stuff gets
Yeah.
delivered." And the guy was like, "Oh yeah, no problem. That sounds great." And
Cool. Leaned on the business partnership. I like that.
yeah, just
And I think it's important to note that this is a property manager.
Yeah.
So I think a lot of time people try to stay away from property managers, but he's been amazing. And we got our 2 other 5-bedroom homes, one that we're moving into today, from this as a referral from this
Yeah.
property manager.
That's great. Okay, so going back to $6,400
Yeah.
towards the deposit and first month's rent.
Yes, and then probably a total of another $2,000 or $3,000 cash. I don't know the final number that we used to pay people to help. A painter and people putting stuff together and people coming to clean that type of stuff. Everything else we paid for on those interest-free credit cards. So probably
Okay.
$19,000 worth of
Design and decor.
Yeah, beds, design, everything that you need. Your whole list that you have of your 155 essentials, consumables, everything like that. Everything was put on the credit card. To fund it.
Okay, so you spent $20,000 on the credit card. It sounds like that deal is making you at least $4,000 to $4,500 net every month. Are you just taking all that cash flow and throwing it right back at the card to pay it off, or are you just staying consistent with $1,500 a month to pay it off by the end of the year?
So basically, back and forth, right? So as we wanted to keep doing it, instead of paying that all off right away, I took all that cash and basically funded our next 2 houses with it.
Nice.
Along with the other credit cards, because it's like I could have put all that on there, but then wait a year to open up the second one just didn't make sense for me. So we used the cash we got for deposit and rent for the next property and paying people to set up and doing all that type of stuff, and then put all that furnishings on the next credit card. So now I pay like $1,000 per card a month. And then when cash is extra in there, I put it all towards debt. So like 3 months ago, I put a $5,000 payment towards one of the cards. So just trying to pay it off that way.
So because you're netting $4,500 a month and you're paying about $1,000 per month, then you're still netting over $3,000 a month on these properties, and you're going to have this card paid off before the end of the year, and you didn't have to take any money out of your pocket. Does that sum it up?
Yeah, it might take me longer to pay him off because we just keep reinvesting it, and then that's probably so it might take me a little bit longer, but
by the end of the year. But
yeah. Still, I mean, that's an amazing strategy for a lot of people. And I think a lot of people just get really paralyzed at even the arbitrage model because they're like, I don't even have the money to furnish the property. And I mean, I know your situation. You had the money, but it also would have strapped you guys a little bit. So the cards really kind of came through in the clutch for you, right?
Yeah. And once we did our first one, it took like 3 weeks to set up. And this is just for somebody else that you can negotiate this up front for your first house if you kind of know what you're doing. But our third house, I negotiated 2.5 weeks of free rent. And we posted it on Airbnb and posted it online before we even had ordered anything. And we moved in on like May 27th. We got the keys. The house was ready to go on the 30th. And we had people in there on the 31st, and I didn't have to give the owner any money until like June 15th. And so we actually rented it out for 2 weeks and got in like almost $5,000 and then used that money to pay the owner the first month's rent. So that one, we almost didn't need any money for it. Just the timing and just negotiating it. Yeah, we did that one that way, which was pretty cool.
That's perfect.
Yeah.
that's maximizing time right there.
Yeah.
John, you mentioned that you've always got a side hustle going. We haven't even talked about the fact that full time you're still a police officer.
Yep.
Plus you're a mortgage lender. Plus you're doing this. There's a lot of things going on. So I want to ask Bethany, was it your idea to bring in the short-term rental thing, or was it John's and you were kind of like, were you open to it? Or were you like, gosh, this is just another one of his side hustles? Tell me about that decision to start this business.
Yeah. So John always has big ideas. He's like the visionary and I'm the integrator. So he'll have a plan and then I kind of make it happen. So when he brought this to me, he showed me you on TikTok or maybe Instagram and then a couple other guys. And I'm like, oh, cool. Okay. I'll watch the videos. Watched them. He showed me another guy that I was like, no. Mm-mm. Then when I watched your videos, I was like, okay, I can relate to this guy. I like him. So I think I messaged you on
Yeah.
Instagram to just kind of see, okay, what does this look like? So after hearing it from John, and I realized this seems like something he's pretty serious about. And so I think we just had a conversation like, if we're going to do this, this is something that we need to be able to do together. So because his time is so limited, and then have it be something to where it could replace my job. So once I talked to you, I think that's when I was like, okay, we can do this. I liked the fact that you were in the same state as us. I liked that you just weren't this Ryan Pineda real estate investor, flashy guy. We've
I
invested with
haven't shown you my Ferrari in the back.
yeah, you keep that all hidden from me, so that's great.
The plane's in my shed. It's one of those compact ones.
Yeah. So once we kind of, and then, once we started coaching with you, I knew that this was something that we both were going to be pretty good at. And we loved having you as, your accountability to keep us on track, and the course to just have the step-by-step tools given to us on exactly what we need to do. Really streamlined it for us.
Well, and I've had a lot of couples on here, and we always kind of like to ask the question, what is each person doing? But I feel like there's some deeper stuff that we can get into right now. And for those of you that are like, well, I really want to know what Bethany and John are doing, I kind of know your guys' situation. Just to sum it up, am I right when I say, like, Bethany, you're a lot of like the team management and the kind of making sure that people are going to the places that need to go in order to make sure that the turnovers are going well. And John's really kind of on the sales, the numbers, and the analysis side.
Yep. He pretty much solidifies the deal, then passes it off to me. I run the day-to-day operations. And then his customer service skills are so incredible that if we have an angry neighbor or an angry guest, they deal with him because they don't want to deal with me.
But
John is very good at like diluting situations.
Well, that
So
comes from
good.
being a police officer. Really,
Yeah,
all
I'm
I'm
sure.
doing when I go is just like, how do I just make this all go away? Yeah.
So I want to dive into this for a second. You guys are in Lodi, California. And I remember when we were looking at this, I was kind of like, this isn't exactly the most amount of data when we look at AirDNA and Airbnb and kind of like really dive into the numbers. I kind of was like, this might be a little risky, but you both were really confident in Lodi. Why Lodi? I understand it's in your backyard, but why go beyond the backyard? Why Lodi, and what made you so confident?
So I think it was a combination of one, really knowing this area, knowing that people do come here, that there's not a lot of short-term stays. There's not, I mean, hotels wise,
Options.
right? And so the Airbnbs that were here, the numbers looked really good for them. And when me and you went over that together, that's, I think, what finally gave me the motivation, or the confidence, like, hey, this is going to work, was just purely based on the other houses in this area are making this, and they don't even look that good. If we put a really nice one in here, I bet you I can make the same numbers or better. And if we do, then it's going to be successful. And so, I think not just knowing the city and not having a gut feeling about it, but looking at the numbers with you, because that's how I am. I'm more analytical on that type of stuff of like, hey, this is pretty simple. This says that we're going to make this much. Let's just believe it. Or like, hey, we're not going to make any money, so we probably shouldn't do it. For example, I know that 3-bedroom, 2 baths here are a dime a dozen, and they just don't do that well. And for some reason, we know the people, and the house is really great, and it's in downtown. And we've wanted a house in downtown, but we did an arbitrage on a 3-bedroom, 2 bath, and we lost money the first month. And this month we made, our rent's $3,000. I think we made like $400. Well, that's not like, and yeah,
For the net, you made $400.
Yeah, yeah, and we got a last minute, weekday booking that saved us this month on it. And so it's like I knew it. Why did I? And so fortunately, that's we had a 3-month test with them, so we have one more month to decide if we want to keep going or not. But so originally looking at those numbers, I'm like, why did I get away from that? Because just looking at the numbers and going over the analysis with you, and even the few houses that were here, but being very specific with those houses gave us the confidence to step forward.
I also think that there's another part to it, that at the point we were in life when we started, to where we were both working full time, we had very, very limited time. We were like, look, we've got to try this in our backyard or we can't. Like, we don't have time to drive even 30 minutes to build a team there. So we really have no other option. So that played a big part in it too, of like, if we're going to do it, we have to do it here because we have resources here.
Side question to that, and then I want to go back to what John was talking about. Now that you have all the experience, you have the 8 properties, you have the team, Bethany, do you feel like you could pick up the phone and try this in, Redding, California, which is even further up north, without having to drive there?
100%. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, we've been looking in Reno and Carson City and Nevada and up in Folsom. We've been looking, quite a ways away already.
Is that because this is easier to do remotely than you thought, or you just have developed those skills, so now you know how to go out and do this without having to be there?
Probably develop the skills. Not easy. I mean, if you get the right people, I guess it can be. If you get the right people, because we have an incredible team right now that, I mean, I don't touch the day-to-day at all, right? And Bethany does, but not a lot. And so
I hired recently, we hired someone who is just, I mean, I sometimes feel like I don't work. Sometimes I work 1 hour a day. Sometimes I don't work at all. It's been great.
Yeah. Like, we left for a week to Disneyland. We didn't do a thing that entire weekend. We had like 8 turnovers in one day, and a whole bunch of stuff. We didn't have to do anything. So
John, going back to the numbers, right? You said that when you were looking at the data, it was revealing for you on getting emotion taken out and just trusting the numbers. If I'm listening to this right now, and whether I'm analytical or not, I just want to know, like, what are the top 3 or 4 or 5 things that you looked for in order to get the answers that you needed to take those next steps and be confident in the deals that you were doing?
So it was, I mean, I'm sure you want me to answer this, but like, the first is like, I go on AirDNA.
Yeah.
I followed your eval plan, right? As well as, because of just how I want to learn. And you brought him to me, was John Bianchi. And he has a whole course on YouTube that's free, like 3 different masterminds that are free, that are, I don't know, 8 hours each. And so I watched all of those along with what you taught in your eval. And it's just, just go look at what other Airbnbs are doing, and then know that if I do it better, I should at least expect that, if not more. And so I look at what they're doing. What do they look like? Like, what's the competition like in that area? And then basically go into Airbnb itself and go to that area and search for houses and see what the rates are at that time. And just use that to, like, okay, is AirDNA data good? And I put all those together and then look at how much is it going to rent for, and will I make money or not? And so definitely took all my gut or emotion out of it. When I very first started, I didn't really know how to do that. So looking at the numbers and then having your confirmation behind me, like, no, those look good, I would do it. That was like, okay, that was kind of like the final straw. That's like, yeah, let's send this off. If I'm doing it now, first thing I do is it allowed there, just like you teach, right? Can I do it there? The next thing I look for is, which size house do I want to do? And are those making any money? Like the market overview from AirDNA, from that basically area. And I look at which houses are making the most money. And I've looked at enough areas now where I can just see, based on like, hey, 2 bedrooms are making $18,000 a year. Don't want that. 5 bedrooms are making $160,000 a year. Okay, I'm going to look at this market very closely. 5 bedrooms are making $60,000 a year. Like, not worth it. And so I look at that, and then once I find which size house, which, as you know, I like the big ones now. Once I find the what size house, then I actually dive into the area of the city. Hey, is this side doing better than this side? And I really get specific on which areas do I think the properties are making the most money, and that's where I try to get one.
So you just mentioned the big houses, and I know that first deal you were talking about that nets you over $4,500 a month is a 5 bedroom. What was it? I guess, what did the process look like? How did that, what was the step by step to find out like, okay, I should not go after the 3 bedrooms. I should not go after the 2 bedrooms. I should go after this size bedroom. What was it about that allowed you to say like, okay, this is exactly the kind of house that I want to go for? And, also just like, I kind of think that speaks to the fact that 2 or 3 years ago, right, we could get on Airbnb and we could make money with just about any size house. But I think this is a really good strategy to understand. So I really want you to like give people exactly why this is important to the business, because you can't just get on Airbnb and just list anything anymore and make money.
Yeah. So when I first started, it was your confirmation and looking at those numbers. If now from what I've learned over the last 8 months, the biggest thing I'm like, competition is good, but I would rather be the best in the least competitive area. Or if I'm in a market, at least be competitive in the least offered product, which
Hmm.
tends to be the bigger houses. So AirDNA specifically will tell you what percentage of houses are in that city. So you can look and see, hey, there's 80% of them are 3 bedroom, 2 baths, 19% of them are 1 or 2 bedrooms, and 2% are 5 bedroom houses. And so it's like, wow, the 5 bedroom houses are doing well, and it's only 2% of the market. So I'll go to Airbnb, I'll go to that city, like say Lodi, and I'll type in, or like we're looking at another market now, right? I'll go there and I'll type into Airbnb and I'm like, hey, I want 12 guests and I want to stay next weekend, or I'm open, and like 2 homes will pop up. So I'm like, wow, the 2 homes that are there do very well. They don't look that great. They do very well. And there's only 2 of them if I want to bring in 9 guests or 10 guests. There's a ton of Airbnbs there, but they're all smaller. So I look at like, hey, I can go into that market. It's a great market, but why do a 3 bedroom, 2 bath when it's a price battle because there's so many homes? If I go to the bigger house, if someone has nine people, they only have 3 options, and mine looks the best based on the way we do pictures, like you do, and the collage photo and all that type of stuff, and the way she decorates. Like, so that's my strategy now. I think about people like you're in Arizona, right? And you have houses in Arizona, right?
I did. I don't
Okay.
anymore, but I did. Yeah.
So I know a lot of people in Arizona, and then people talk about like Florida and Orlando. And my brother was looking at one right here up in the mountains, and he goes, "Hey, what do you think about this house?" And the same thing with people in Florida and Arizona. It's like it's so competitive.
Yeah.
If you want to be successful there, you better be ready to drop 150, $200,000 into your house to make it
A
a
result.
resort outside of the resort of Disney World. Otherwise, you're not going to be competitive. And so for me, I'm like, I don't want to put that much money into a house if I don't have to at this time right now. So I'm looking for markets that have good numbers that I go and I'm like, there's good houses here. They're making money, but they are just run by hobbyists, not by
Right.
professionals, right? And so if we go in there as a professional and set it up really prime, I just think it's a great way to make better money in like a little bit smaller markets, less competitive.
So do you think that goes beyond just the size of the house, the number of bedrooms? Do you think that there's other things that, well, I guess just even in your own market, are there other things besides just the size of the house that you're doing? Hot tubs, amenities, things that make it still that low supply but high demand type of house?
Yeah, we have 2 houses with hot tubs that do very well because of the hot tub. There's only, and like I know in Lodi, there's only 2, maybe 3 houses in the entire city on Airbnb that have swimming pools. So
Hmm.
we have a house that we're taking over in April that has a swimming pool and a hot tub, and it's 4 bedrooms. So I think that one's going to do incredibly well. We did a creative finance offer on a property that we did not like. It fell through right at the like at the final moment. It fell through, but that was a 5 bedroom house with a pool and a hot tub. Like I think just being a little bit differentiated, adding that extra stuff in a market like this does incredibly well. That the house I was talking about with my brother up in the mountains, he goes, "Man, this one would do great." And I go, "Yeah." And we pull up AirDNA and Airbnb, and every single house looked the exact same. A
Oh,
log
wow.
cabin, 3 or 4 bedrooms with a hot tub. Like there's no way to be different there. Like I go, it's a price battle here, Matt. To my brother, it's a price battle. Whereas we can come to Lodi and make our house look super nice, put in a hot tub, or just make it super nice, and it's going to do better than the rest of them.
Cool. What's next for you guys in this business?
Hopefully I get to retire.
Good. What's got to happen for that to be a reality?
Yeah, so we've talked a little bit about it, but as you start into real estate, it's just it's just crazy, like the things I've learned that I didn't even know existed, right? So I've partnered with a guy. I know you had Jeremy on here, but I've partnered
Mhm.
with a friend who already does government contracting. So we're looking at getting into some government contracts for housing. I found out that the state of California needs a ton of office space. So I've been trying to connect the state of California with some of my friends that lease properties and getting paid a commission off of that. And then we've also, like, I know you've had Lame on here before, but learning about creative finance and some of the deals you're doing and he's doing. We've been putting in creative finance offers. So uh, whatever's next is the next big deal that says yes while we continue to grow
While we
our
continue
Airbnb.
to,
Yeah.
gain more properties, and we want to take on some more co-hosting properties. We have one coming next
Yeah.
week. Yeah.
So I've always heard and I've always believed that when you focus on one thing, that's when it really grows. And you talked about side hustles. You talked about really just looking for whatever deals are out there. Do you think at some point you say we have to pick like one lane that we're putting 90% of our attention into and then dabble in the other things, or even put your blinders onto those other things? Or do you think what you're doing currently is going to get you to those goals?
I mean, my view, and I could be wrong, but right, my view is the way we're going is actually going to work because I'm not trying to do it myself, right? Like me and her definitely have our moments where like, I'm going to punch you in the face and like, I don't want to see you tonight, right? Like, but it's not often. So like
I
working.
hope she's saying she's going to punch you in the face, not the other way around.
So
If you,
yeah,
it wouldn't be him.
yeah. But so just like us, like our relationship and being able to work together and have fun, like virtually most of the time, right? Like there's definitely times where stress just gets the better of both of us, but partnering together, I think, has helped. But then not just with her, but like uh, Ashley, who she's hired, Ava, who has helped me, my buddy, partnering with my buddy on the government contracts, like he's doing most of that, not me. They're doing most of the Airbnb, partnering with my brother on some other stuff. And so it's like, if I have other people significantly helping, then yes, I think it's doable. If I get in over my head over a bunch of stuff, then I'm willing to back off. But um, there's just so much big opportunity out there
Mhm.
that has my eyes have been opened up to.
Yeah, he more just gets the idea and then delegates it, because there's no way he could do it all. As amazing
Yeah,
you are, I
yeah.
know.
Good. I've got one random question. Just knowing your situation, John, you did something that I think is pure genius. Can you talk about the midterm rental strategy that you used to find potential leads and then outsourcing all of the grunt work so that you could focus on really just building the relationships for midterm rentals? Can you talk about that for a second?
Yeah, so we have had a company stay with us that has been a great client, and I mean, probably paid us 35,000 in rents over the last, I don't know, 6 months at some of our properties, and they're a subcontractor with PG&E. And so we went to PG&E's website and downloaded a list of 4,000 companies that are subcontractors with them. Sent that list to Fiverr.com and got the phone numbers for the companies. I think we only have 400 phone numbers, but
Yeah.
like, let's start with the sample. Um, and then started just calling them, asking if they ever are in this area and have been saying Fresno, and if they need housing. And that has been me cold calling them. That part. I also, based on your buddy Justin, who was Justin, who was in one
Yeah.
of our Monday night classes. He goes, "Oh, I had a buddy that went to the hotels. I literally did it that night. I drove to every hotel in Lodi, wrote down the name of every company that was on the side of a work truck, and brought it home. Looked up their phone numbers and been calling them. And so I've gotten four. No one has stayed from that yet, but I have gotten 4 or 5
That's
people that are like, yes, we want to. Hey,
yeah.
that might work out. No one has booked a stay, but I know like Alex Hermosi and some other guys are just like, you want to be successful, do the boring stuff over and over again that other people won't do. And so if I have to call 100 people to finally get a company that says yes, it's like, okay, the one company we have right now is $35,000 in rent in 6 months. Like if I get a half a dozen of those, like that would be very
Yeah,
nice.
you're doing well. So just so everyone knows, PG&E is a gas and electric company
Oh
here
yeah.
in
Oh, yeah.
California. So if you are in Florida or Texas or whatever, the key thing here is who's your gas or who's your electric company. And then you said you went to the website, you looked at the subcontractors that are contracted out with them, and then basically sent that list to a person at Fiverr, asked them to get all the phone numbers. And yeah, you're doing the cold calling, but you could even just get another Fiverr cold caller and just have them do it if you wanted to.
We could, and I was like, I want to test this, see what kind of script I should put together for it, and what the feedback is, and it's been good. But we got into the holidays and Thanksgiving. We went to Disneyland, so there's some, that was only a month ago, so there's been some time in between. But uh, I just think it'd be a cool story. Like, oh, how did you get this midterm deal? Oh, I cold called 500 companies, and I got 12 of them to say yes, and now I never have to work again. That would be cool.
None of that sounds unrealistic.
Yeah.
Guys, thank you so much for jumping on here. Where can people follow more of your content? Because you're not just doing this thing, you're showing people your places, you're getting into the Airbnbs and really showing behind your business. I'd love for people to see that.
Yeah. So I'll tell you the names, and this is, when she messaged you, you said, hey, she messaged you. So she has forever has had an Instagram account, Be Fit Davis.
Yeah.
She has like 25,000 followers or something. Naturally, I made mine Be Fat Davis and have like 900 or 1,000 followers. So when I found you, I was like, hey, babe, you message him from your account. You got the blue check mark, not me. And so that's how she messaged you. But now we're Be Flip Davis. So
we got B Flip Davis. I'm challenging you right now. I think she has a lot more. Oh, okay. You got 23,000. For some reason I thought Bethany was at like 50,000, but you were closer than I thought.
Yeah. So yeah.
All right. So B Flip Davis. Any departing words, Bethany? I'd like to hear from you. Any departing words, just words of encouragement or next steps that you think people should take if they're either thinking about getting into this business or want to take the next step to elevate their business?
Yeah, I think sometimes people don't get started because they think, oh, it's, I'm not ready, or I'll start next year, or I'll start after the holidays. And really, you're never going to fully be ready. So just start now. We kind of have a thing that we say yes, and then we make it happen. And if you're in this community, you have the best resources to be successful. So there's no way that you cannot be if you're willing to put in the work. And it just takes a little hard work and a lot of consistency, and you'll definitely do well.
And then I just want to say, I know we're wrapping up, but you hear our story and like, you might think it's all rainbows and butterflies, but we still are in the grind. We haven't made it. I'm still working full time, right? There's still a lot of hard work that goes into it. We've been almost sued once, the threat of another lawsuit. We've not been paid on one of our huge invoices. Like, we've had struggles, and we've learned from that and put in policies to make it better. But if you do what she said and you use the resources that Kyle has and everyone else in this group, like, you definitely should be able to take the next step. So
those are good words. Thanks, guys. Appreciate you helping our audience to conquer the world of short-term rentals, and just continued success to both of you.
Thank you so much.
Flip Davis, go check him out on Instagram. And we are going to continue to pump out great content here during the holidays. I hope you're enjoying your holiday season, but we've got still a full lineup of guests. Plus, I've got some other really exciting things coming out again in the new year. So make sure that you're following everything on our social media at Fearless Kyle, checking out our website, fearlesskyle.com, and continuing to subscribe and tune in here on the Fearless Investor Podcast. We'll see you next time. We're helping you to conquer the world of short-term rentals. See you later.